Chris Duarte starts his first game in the preseason, and then Justin Holiday gets hurt. There's a lot to talk about with the Pacers heading into their last week of the preseason. We'll break it all down here on the Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. Hope everybody had a great weekend. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and the West Side Community News. And today, loaded show, fun weekend. Pacers had FanJam, a scrimmage in front of fans. We got to see the rookies dance. They had a game on Friday against the Cavs. Chris Duarte started for the first time in preseason action. Justin Holiday got hurt. There was some funky shot stuff. They won the game. A lot to break down from that action. Some stuff going forward this week that requires coverage for this Pacers team as they wrap up preseason. So, of course, joining me on the other line to break down all the crazy topics about this team that is swirling because they play a basketball game that matters in 9 days, Mr. Adam Friedman, former Indy Corners writer extraordinaire. Adam, how's it going?
Pretty good. You almost caught me mid-burp, but I'm all good now.
I've been getting too many burps on the podcast. I can't help it. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, lots to get to today. I suppose we'll go happy. If you're a bad news first person, I'm sorry. We're going to go good news first with Chris Duarte starting, and then we'll do Justin Holiday second and some just general kind of big news items to check out and watch for this week first. But yeah, that I think is the biggest takeaway from the Pacers game last Friday against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Chris Duarte moves into the starting five in place of Jeremy Lamb. And intuitively, you've kind of brought this up more than me on this show. This could happen eventually. And Jay Michael, who used to be with the Indy Star, was tipping for a while that they were thinking of starting him at some point anyway because they really like his potential. So it took them one preseason game to go, you know what, let's do this now. And then the thought process is pretty simple, right? Chris Duarte, they just drafted him. They have him under team control for at least 5 years, probably longer. And they think he's good, and he looks good in his preseason action. Granted, it's only the preseason. The other consideration is Jeremy Lamb right now, who's on an expiring contract, and who knows what his future with the team is. And he's not so talented that you feel like you have to start Jeremy Lamb. So, yeah, with those two situations, that makes sense to start Duarte. I've always maintained that given Carlisle's past and the fact that Karis LeVert would return presumably early in the season, just roll with the vet until he's back. But it makes sense why they decided to do Duarte over Lamb, especially with how he's playing, I think, Adam.
Yeah, the thing I would say about Duarte is he's high floor, maybe low ceiling. And I said that a couple of times before. And he seems like he is a much more mature rookie. I mean, obviously 24 years old, but you watch him out there and you don't worry that he's going to make some of the like boneheaded rookie moves, right? Like he does take a couple, like he don't take a 3-point shot. I'm kind of like maybe you need to pull up from there, but he's not like, I think Carlisle doesn't like rookies because he thinks they're going to make a mistake or do something really dumb. But Duarte doesn't really have that in his game because he's kind of worked through it, whether it's through college or whatnot. It's gotten to this point where like he comes in to me as like maybe a second or third year level experience in some ways because of his age and stuff like that. And he just isn't the same kind of rookie that Carl is used to seeing. So that's why I think I always thought he might eventually start him.
Yeah, and the thing with Carlisle and rookies is we're all basing this off of his time with Dallas. And that's fair to say, like Josh Green didn't play a lot. And basically every non-Luka rookie in past for the Mavs hasn't gotten as much minutes as their fans would like. But now that he's here, Isaiah Jackson's in the preseason rotation. Duarte's already starting. The regular season hasn't started yet, so I will make no claims of change for him. But maybe it's like an organizational thing where he comes to Indiana and there's kind of a shift in the presence over him. And he's just like, okay, yeah, I can change a little bit there. Because he is leaning more on rookies in general with Jackson playing more too. But yeah, Duarte starting. Oh, go ahead.
But I would be surprised if Jackson plays anything more than like garbage time or some injury step-up minutes, right? Like, I mean, he's looked okay, but I don't think he's like really ready to play in the, like, let's call it, I guess, backup center spot. Like, I feel like Goga is still going to have it over him. Like, I don't think we're going to see a ton of Jackson.
Interesting.
Do you?
I've been thinking the preseason rotation's more legit than you then, because I feel like I think Carlisle like might seriously play him over O'Shea and Goga.
Oh, I feel like the preseason rotation is just like let's just kind of like experiment kind of thing. I don't know, but we'll see. I mean, I just don't read a lot in the preseason in any sport, like whether it's football or basketball. Like I think the preseason is just a bunch of hot garbage of you just kind of throw things against the wall and see what happens, and you're not really like trying to do much. You're basically trying to get out without any injuries. Unfortunately, that happened to the Pacers, but I don't know. I don't read much into it, but you're with the team more and you kind of hear him speak more. So maybe he's tipping his hand a little more to the media.
There is some experimenting, certainly. That he mentioned Carlisle. Is he here? Like last week, we were asking him a lot about the starting five, right? Because Lamb and Justin Holiday were in it. And he's like, yeah, this group's going well. They've been passing the ball really well. They're sharing it. They look good pushing up the floor. And then like the next day, he's like, yeah, we mixed it up in practice today and had a different line of it stuff. And we didn't really know what it was. Then he started Lamb in the first preseason game. And then they immediately showed the mix up by going with Duarte. And then in practice earlier this week, but prior to the Cavs game, he was talking about how they played Isaiah Jackson at the 4 in practice. And then lo and behold, the very next game, boom, he's playing the 4 in the rotation. He's playing next to either Sabonis or Turner, who both played more than they did in the first preseason game. So I'm just more confident it's kind of the real rotation because it's coming after a practice in which they try that thing. So I guess it's possible that it's an extension of practice where he says, yeah, it's a preseason game, let's try it. But anyway, via Duarte Lamb, I think that Duarte has played well enough, both as his fit with the starting five. Like you said, he's a little trigger happy at times. He is playing a lot, but he was 5 for 11. His passing actually is pretty nice, only 2 assists, but he can make the right reads. He's in the right spots. He had 11 points against the Cavs. He fits in well enough with the starters that if LeVert's not ready by opening night, I think they'll probably stick with that over Lamb. But that said, something we'll talk about next segment, Justin Holiday's injury kind of changes up the thought process there, but I think he's done well fitting in with that group as the 5th option.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where, as a rookie, he's kind of in the best spot too, right? If you are that 5th option out there, you're like kind of left alone, and you don't have it's almost better than being the number 1 guy on the bench or number 2 off the bench because you're given almost more space. Now, you're playing a really good team that has 5 really good starters, maybe not, but Duarte just, when you watch him, he just he has a maturity about him, and his handle is good enough. Hopefully he can get better into that, but it's good enough to basically play 2 guard or play kind of a small forward at times. And he's not like some guy who's just going to sit in the corner and take threes. Like he can do a little off the dribble. He has a couple moves. Like there's just like a presence to him that when I watch him, I don't feel like he's a rookie. Like I remember watching let's say Miles Turner 6 years ago. Well, Turner was a pretty good rookie, but you could still kind of feel it in decision-making at times. With Duarte, you just kind of look at it and oh, this guy kind of understands the game to a little bit higher level than most first-year players.
Yeah, the 2 things with Duarte that are interesting, and actually I want to go back to something you just said about him being in the corner. Caitlin Cooper just wrote about this, but we've really seen it already in 2 preseason games how, the Pacers have roles. Their bigs do certain things and their guards do certain things, but there's a lot of, she wrote this word, interchangeability, which guys who are just put them into handlers, wings, bigs. If you're a wing, if you're the 2 wing, the 3 wing, or the 4 wing, you kind of can do any of 3 roles on any given possession, right? So the thing about Duarte that's been good is he can shoot from the corners, but he's also been handling in the pick and roll sometimes, or coming out of the slot, or cutting off of a big who's holding the ball or setting a screen right. So the fact that he can do all those things, at least at somewhat competent of a level, makes it fine that he could fit at the 2 or the 3, depending on whatever happens with the lineups going forward, which is good. Those are skills that he needs to show to fit in with the starting 5 and the stuff we've seen from the Pacers so far. Now, granted, they've practiced all of 6 times, so that's going to change as the season goes on, but that's good. He can do all the things he needs to do to play with any unit. And the other big fit is, I've just been talking about offense. He can kind of team defend. Yeah. He's still slow processing the game. Every rookie will always say this. Wow, the NBA game is so fast. Even Isaiah Jackson, whose defense has been insane for a rookie in the preseason, is these guys are so quick. I can't keep up. So that Duarte will just naturally have that. That might not even be a criticism of him. It's just a thing that happens. So he can keep up, and he's kind of in the right spots, and he'll get beat sometimes and not realize what's happening as he's a rookie. But he's good enough on defense right now that his fit is fine. That if he starts, assuming there's not a huge rookie wall, that's a fine choice over Jeremy Lamb. If Karras is back, I wouldn't think he'd start at the 2.
Yeah, and I think he benefits from the fact that he doesn't have most rookies earn their spot on the team with defense, right? That's how a rookie gets played. But in the Pacers starting lineup, they just don't have enough off the ball scorers, right? I mean, Holiday, when he's in there because of injuries and whatnot, but with Holiday in there, Holiday's mainly kind of catch and shoot, a little bit of dribble, but not wows you. Sabonis and Brogdon, I guess, are the kind of 2 guys, but Turner can't really do it. So they need a guy who can kind of create on his own. So he has the benefit of if he can do that, that probably gets him some starting minutes with all the injuries. Now, when things settle back in without injuries, he's going to have to play better on defense to probably earn that spot. If they want to play a small lineup, to probably earn that spot over Justin Holiday. Let's say in a small lineup, he's going to have to play better defense. But I think to start the year, he's okay with the fact that as long as he just puts some offense and kind of keep the offense moving, that's what the Pacers need, at least for the short term.
And it's only one game. I don't want to totally get like way too into the weeds on stats from one preseason game, right? But
Yeah.
we did note after the Knicks game, remember we said, Duarte like kind of create a little bit, but when McConnell can't do it, like you're asking a lot from him with the second unit to be the entire secondary creation. Where if you switch him and Lamb in the situation they have now with injuries, Lamb can self-create a lot better already because he's a vet. And lo and behold, they switch roles. Jeremy Lamb is 4 for 6 and looks way better with the second unit than the starters. McConnell has a better game, passing wise at least. He couldn't shoot at all. And we'll get to that later today, actually, shooting in general for McConnell. But the interchanging of those two roles just kind of made sense in how they fit with the lineups they were in. So we'll see how that progresses. They have 2 more games this week to really iron out those roles, see how the fits continue to work, and maybe they continue to shake up the lineups, right? We saw a lot of like Brad Wanamaker was in the rotation, and we'll talk about him. O'Shea Brissett was like out and then in the rotation because those injuries. It's not real yet, like you said, Adam. We don't really know what the rotation is going to be, and there's so many guys hurt. But the signs of just Duarte with these 4 other players was good, and it makes you think that okay, if there are injuries to start the season, you can say okay, if he starts, that's not the worst option for this team.
Yeah, I think so. I think it, considering where the injury stuff is heading, I mean, he's going to have to frankly start because there just isn't much left. But
yep.
Yeah, we have to kind of, we don't know who's going to actually be there at the start of the season. Like right now, we just don't know. So that's going to play a huge factor in where Duarte starts and if he starts next to Lamb or whatnot, frankly.
Or amazingly, Torrey Craig has worked his way into the starters discussion. Yeah. Why? That's because Justin Holiday got hurt. We mentioned we were going to do the good news first, the bad news second. That's the bad news. Let's get to Justin Holiday. But first, let's take a little break and hear from 2 great groups of people. First, let's talk about the great folks over at Sleeper because they discovered in 2018, fantasy basketball is completely broken. Games were being won and lost based on which owner had players that had more scheduled games played in a week. If you ever played fantasy basketball a while ago, you knew that it was really dumb how that worked. Like guys who had 4 or 5 games in a week, even if they weren't stars, are more valuable than like Kevin Durant with 2 games in a week. It was no sense. It made no sense. There was very little strategy to it. It was just add guys who had a lot of games. So Sleeper said, screw that. We're going to make fantasy basketball way better. And they made something called Game Pick. It's only available on Sleeper. And in Game Pick, team managers pick a single game per week for each starter on their team to count towards their total score. That means both opponents have the same number of games played for their roster. So no more losing because your opponent's players have more games than you. No more busy work. No more giving up halfway through the season because the busy work is not fun and you're losing a lot. You get game picks now. You pick 1 game per week for each player based on their matchup, home versus away, their defensive rating of their opponent, pace of play. All that adds up. More strategy, less busy work. It's way more fun. Whether you prefer redraft, keeper, or dynasty, Game Picks has you covered. If you prefer building out a weekly strategy versus daily busy work, you're going to love Game Picks. Go check it out. Download that Sleeper app. Start a league with your friends today. I use it for fantasy football. Love their app. You will not be disappointed. And let's also talk about the great folks who are making DirecTV stream for you, because if you're like me, you've got one device to watch the sporting events live, another to stream your favorite TV shows, another for your sport highlights. That's my phone. And you've got, your family or your friends log in for other stuff, right? That's a pain. There's a better way to do all that entertainment and get it without the hassle. And that's DirecTV Stream. It brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before. So you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes. No need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, no annual contract. Get rid of the clutter and confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package. Thank you for making Locked On Pacers your first listen today. We always appreciate you guys checking in on the Pacers and hanging out with us. Time for the bad news stuff. Justin Holiday injured late in the second quarter against the Cavs. Basically, the only thing you don't want to see in a preseason game is an injury. And of course, it happens to the Pacers Iron Man, the only guy who has not missed a game the last 2 seasons for them. Justin Holiday very badly rolled his ankle when I forget who he was guarding, but someone crossed over and he couldn't quite keep up and his ankle rolled really bad. He immediately limped off the floor, went back to the locker room. It was called an ankle sprain from the Pacers. He was questionable to return. Made no sense for him to come back. And then we got an update from Rick Carlisle at FanJam on Sunday. Very fun event, by the way, if you got to go. Congratulations. I'm glad you got to watch all that. That on Saturday, Justin Holiday couldn't walk very well. He's dealing with ankle pain. But Sunday, he was walking way better. I was there. I could see him. He was walking fine, no boot, no nothing. And Carlisle noted that in his career, he's been a fast healer. So they don't know. They don't have like a specific timetable yet. He's day-to-day right now. Day-to-day, always a good distinction to hear because any day now the pain could just be gone and he could be back. I have no idea what that means when he will or won't be back. Maybe he'll miss some time. Maybe he won't. But, of course, it's the worst news in preseason. A player gets hurt. Now the Pacers have to pivot at him.
Yeah. It's basically the one injury in the one position they didn't really want, right? Now they're basically down like 2/3 guards. I mean, they're basically having to dig deep in the bench. And this is why I guess you sign guys like Torrey Craig and you kept Lamb on the roster and you draft Duarte so that you could have guys to fill in. But it's just annoying, frankly.
You never want injuries, but especially when we talked about this, we did our podcast on injuries about a month ago at this point, is that the problem the Pacers have been having a lot is their injury stack, both positionally and in terms of timing. And now we have Warren, LeVert, and Holiday, who kind of play 2-3 wing, and they're all hurt at the same time. So who knows when Holiday will or won't be back, but that's where the problem comes in of, this isn't like Brogdon got hurt and you can just slide McConnell in and still have a capable-ish lineup. But you obviously are losing production, but you still have something going. Whereas Justin Holiday was already your backup 3. Now he's hurt. You're going to your third string 3 to start. So first of all, it's a big injury just because Justin Holiday is good, right? The thing that we've been seeing in this preseason is he's been attacking the rim work, a la McDermott last year. His shot looks okay still. His defense is good. He knows the Pacers very well. He's been here for so long. Just to say, right, he's good. He's been helpful in every lineup he's in the entire time he's been with the Pacers. So that's obviously the biggest hit from this is just on the surface level, they lost a good player.
Yeah, he's the best utility guy they have. Like he fits in really anywhere. You can kind of go ahead and play him at 4 at times in a bench lineup, anywhere from the basically shooting guard to small forward to power forward spot. He fills in basically any time anybody's hurt in the starting lineup because you can make it work, adjust around, right? And so that's where you want him. Like he'll end up playing what's most season 80 something games plus start 15 or 20 because he'll fill in for injuries. Like it's just he's usually kind of and he makes not a ton of money. All the things he's kind of their like perfect player to have. And yeah, he's the one guy like you don't really want to get hurt when you already have injuries because it means that like now you're digging deep in. And I mean, you joked at the start of the year, but like Lamb is like I at this point Lamb is like in a legit competition to start at the 2 or 3, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, the fallout from this is very fascinating because if this game had happened the same way as the first preseason game where Lamb started alongside Justin Holiday, then we'd be talking right now like, okay, Duarte will pop into the starting 5. But Duarte already started. He's already in the starting 5, or at least right now. So going forward in the preseason, seeing how they pivot's going to be really interesting. First of all, just on the floor, right? The guys they have to fill in now, like Warren is a kind of a 3-and-D guy, and LeVert's really good at offense. They don't have those guys right now, right? So fixing Justin Holiday's production of a guy who can really shoot and play defense, they kind of have to decide, right? Because that's where the biggest hit is here. Like Torrey Craig might be a better defender than Justin Holiday, but he is way worse on offense. He's been dribbling so much in the preseason. His shot is not as good, although he has been hitting some threes in the preseason. Jeremy Lamb's the opposite, where his offensive game is kind of clean and crisp. He looks like he's got that left elbow jumper back he's maybe the best left elbow jumper shooter in the NBA, but his defense is terrible, right? So they're sacrificing on one end in a way that they weren't with Justin Holiday. That's the big hit. So, Duarte would have started to me for Justin Holiday, but he's already starting. So now you got to figure out who your fifth starter is. Is it Lamb, and then you move Duarte to the 3? Is it Torrey Craig playing the 3? My light just died again. I always forget that that's going to happen.
Lamb can play the 3 too, theoretically too. He's played the 3 in the past, right?
Yeah, he kind of did next to Depot, if I recall.
I think he did also in Charlotte for a little bit, like in one of those years.
I don't know his Charlotte time well enough to officially speak on that. But yeah, those seem like the 2 most obvious candidates to me would be Torrey Craig and Lamb. Do you have a hunch between those 2 guys? Torrey Craig started the second half with Justin Holiday out against the Cavs.
I think the more interesting thing is kind of the downhill effect, right? So like then you're talking about starters, and then like how everything shifts up, right? So like I just like wrote down like let's call it 10-man rotation, but like this might legitimately get O'Shea Jackson into being like the 9th guy, right? I mean, it's going to come down to him. Like I think O'Shea can play some backup 3. Is that wrong?
He did in the fourth quarter,
right?
Remember that it was Goga, O'Shea, and Isaiah Jackson were the front court in the fourth quarter.
Could that be their bent front? Because I do think to start the year they'll probably go 10 deep. I think eventually they'll sell like 9. But most teams I feel like start the first games with 10 just to see what they've had for a few games. So like I guess you were looking at like a bench line of McConnell, Lamb, O'Shea, Jackson, and Goga, maybe.
If Craig
Lamb,
starts.
yeah, and then the Lamb or Craig is a flip, basically. But I think that makes the most sense, honestly, is having Craig start because he could play traditional 3, and then you've got O'Shea can slot up and stuff like that. And then maybe Wanamaker somehow fits in there. That's the only other one. But, I mean, like, this could mean both rookies end up playing, like,
a lot.
Yeah, Duarte,
at least
25.
in the preseason.
Yeah, well, I mean, if this holds the regular season, right?
Right.
Warren, Holiday, and LeVert are all out the first, let's call it, like, game or two. Duarte could play 25 minutes, and you see Isaiah play 15. I mean, that wouldn't surprise me, at least.
Right. If you're the optimist here, too, you could even look at what's going on right now, right, and say, oh, Justin and LeVert are back on day 1 of the regular season, and then all these problems go away, right? You start LeVert at the 2, Justin Holiday at the 3, boom, you're ready to roll. So, like, we could be just analyzing what they do for 2 preseason games, which is overanalyzing an ankle sprain, but it certainly matters that because they have other guys out, and because the regular season starts in like 9 days, like, these injuries are real and coming up on the season. So figuring out their plans is certainly interesting. And you mentioned Wanamaker. Yeah, we got to bring him up. I didn't think we would need to bring him up this soon when we were kind of thinking about how injuries play into this, but he got in the second quarter against the Cavs. I think they were just, I don't actually know this. I didn't ask Carlisle because there was an injury and a bunch of other guys played well, but was he in the competitive portion of the game because that's where they currently rank him in terms of the roster and where he will contribute? Or were they just trying to see how do you fit with other good players on this team? Because if it's the latter, then I guess there's a chance that, maybe McConnell gets a bump in minutes and plays with the starters more, and then Wanamaker steals some of the minutes vacated by Holiday for these 2 games. But he's only played once. I don't know how to feel what his role on this team is. And it seems like just because it's a forward, the biggest beneficiaries will be Craig and Lamb and even O'Shea getting rotation minutes, because he was getting rotation minutes in the second half and he didn't in the first half, which was interesting.
Yeah, I would be surprised if Wanamaker works just because he's so new to the team right now.
So new.
And I think his role is he's the emergency point guard. And so I'm not sure you want to tap into that when both your point guards are healthy. Yeah. Right. Like it's like, because the worst thing that happened to them is they bring him and he gets hurt then. And then it's like no emergency point guard. You have no shooting guards. Like, it's just, the things just become a mess. Like, he's got to kind of be the guy of like, okay, when one of the points hurt, you're in, but that's about it. And maybe it's a garbage time thing, but I would be surprised that he's in a rotation, at least to start the season.
So assuming those are we got the 10 right. I mean, we're one injury away from seeing Keelan Martin all of a sudden, like the end of last year, where it's like, all right, you're in, get in there.
So the last thing I think I would say is, like, we were discussing, like, the Pacers go 14 guys to start the year, right? Like, was there a chance for that?
Not if there's this many injuries,
right? Because like they only have 11 players if they cut Keelan.
Yep.
11 healthy. Now maybe Holiday's only a week and LeVert's only 10 days, and then we're like 13 and they could do it. But like, I kind of thought they were gonna. I don't know that they would cut Keelan, but I thought they would definitely try to like minimize the amount of money he was going to cost them. But now I think he might even have a better leverage situation going into that October 19th deadline. 20th.
People who kept asking, why is Keelan pushing back his guarantee date? What is the benefit for him? This is the benefit for him. He gets to preseason, and he played well against the Cavs, by the way. He loves shooting in Cleveland, apparently. He was 3 for 4. And then stuff like this happens where there's 3 injuries in front of him at his position, and they trade Edmund Sumner, and all of a sudden he's like, great, my spot on the team is looking very secure all of a sudden. So that's why you push these guarantee dates back. But yeah, he could be another beneficiary. There's a lot of ripple effects, and often, because Justin Holiday probably is like just below starter quality, but it's fine if he's your 5th starter. But as always with injuries, the ripple effect is not necessarily always who comes into the starting 5, but like you said earlier, who replaces the guy who does come into the starting 5. And that's where it's either going to be maybe Brissett out of position, maybe a rookie Jackson, maybe more Goga, who has been fine in the preseason, but unproven career. So a lot of ripple effects from this that involve young guys needing to step up, and we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's certainly it's kind of the life of a Pacer fan, unfortunately, as injuries just always pile up at the worst possible times.
Yes, that is 100% true. All right, so we'll cover some notes from the Cavs game, some other stuff to watch this week, some FanJam stuff. There's a lot of stuff that happened in the last 3 Pacers days that we have to talk about. So let's do it. We got a lot more Pacers topics to get to today. But first, we got to talk about one group of people that we always talk about on Locked On Pacers. And that is the great folks over at Built Bar, because did you know that Built Bar is making the best tasting protein bars ever? They do not, as Nate Duncan says, taste like the inside of a sawmill. Instead, they are 100% covered in chocolate, soft and easy to chew protein bars. And they have a flavor for everybody. When you talk to a Built Bar fan, they're always passionate about their favorite flavors. The new cookie dough one is absolutely my favorite. It's so good. But the double chocolate's really good. Peanut butter brownie is really good. Cookies and cream is really good. There's so many that I've really liked that they've made. So you got to try them. There's a mixed box you can get where you can try 2 of each of their 9 most popular flavors, but you can also just buy individual boxes, whatever you like. You got to try Built Bar. Not only are they delicious, but they're really healthy, right? 17 to 18 grams of protein in all of them. Calories ranging from 130 to 180, only 4 to 5 grams of sugar, and only 4 to 5 grams of net carbs. Amazing flavors, all tasty, all healthy. A great snack or meal supplement. Try them out today. Go to built.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off your order. That promo code is LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. All right, let's talk more about that Cavs game, more about some other Pacers notes. I got plenty in my phone. Sorry for those watching on YouTube. By the way, we're 1 week into YouTube. It's going very well. If you want to listen or watch us on that way, you can see my face moving and talking. YouTube is the place for you. So the first thing I wanted to bring up, this is more just an administrative thing that the team will have to watch this week. But so technically how guaranteed contracts work for the season is they start counting against your cap on the 16th. That is Saturday. The Pacers' last preseason game is Friday. So don't be surprised if, guys start to get waived during this week before that, so the Pacers can bring in other Exhibit 10 guys they can waive also by Saturday. Like Terry Taylor didn't even play against the Cavs, so he might be waived early this week. I'm just guessing here, but like that kind of stuff could happen very soon. Definitely starting this week. A lot of teams have already started to churn through that stuff. So get ready to see those kind of transactions. Don't be surprised unless it's like Kiefer Sykes. Then be a little surprised because he was fighting for a roster spot.
Yeah, we think the spot's going to Keelan, though, right? I mean, it's either Keelan or no one.
But yeah.
What?
Yes, Wanamaker and Keelan, but yes.
Yes. But Wanamaker, I think it's like, I think it's Keelan or none at this point, it feels like.
That's my guess as well. So just keep an eye on that this week. See who gets waived. If they bring in anyone else, that's why they're doing it. It's not really anyone fighting to make the team. Okay, speaking of Wanamaker, he debuted. And I know we kind of talked about his interesting spot in the rotation for his first game and whatever, but in general, I thought he was all right. He actually had 5 assists. Like he was doing a pretty good job setting up his teammates and running the offense to the extent that he knew it. But he had some nice skip passes to shooters and just didn't look lost out there, which is impressive considering he's been with the team for all of 2 days before that game. So nice debut. Looks like a guy who can be their third point guard just fine. I think he had a nice day to continue on the path to easily make the Pacers team and be their third point guard.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, when they signed him, even I'm surprised he wasn't in the league already. I mean, I think that he kind of showed that in his first game. I mean, he's not like, world beater, right? He's probably maybe even not even a backup point guard quality, but like, it seems like he is like whatever team needs at the third point guard spot. And I wonder if some of that is just like an age thing because he's kind of on the older side and stuff like that. That hasn't been in the league, but I'm like, he's kind of, I'm surprised the Pacers didn't sign earlier almost in some ways because they clearly have needed a guy like him. Maybe they thought in the draft they'd get someone or find somebody young or whatnot, or somebody would step up. But yeah, I think he looked like I would expect a guy who, has been in the league. This would be his 4th season, is 32 years old, and looks kind of like, fine. And I think as the season goes on, he'll adjust and figure out how to run some of the plays as he needs to be. Doesn't need to be sharp game 1 because he's not even the backup point guard right now.
And he can play off ball too. He actually played with McConnell a tiny bit, which I thought was noteworthy. We talked about how that's an option if the injuries come to that. They shouldn't get to that point, but look where we are. Look what we talked about today. Another injury. It's all we talk about on this podcast for Pete's sake. So you never know, but I think that's a pro and an appeal to the Pacers signing him as well, as given what they're currently dealing with injury wise and what they have in the past, getting a guy who can not only fill the role you need of a third point guard who's capable, but also can do some kind of off-ball stuff if need be. Again, was a good shooter for the Celtics for 2 years. That's even more appealing for them. So a good debut for him. We'll see what that carries into this week. He is definitely one of probably the 3 or 4 most interesting guys to watch for the rest of preseason, but I enjoyed watching his debut.
Yeah. Can I give you another thought from the last preseason game?
Yeah, go ahead.
Not really. I guess it's point guard, but it's not related to Wanamaker. I think we have to just talk about how good Brogdon looked. We did it before the show a little bit. But man, I mean, when he is on, it's like, oh, this guy is like close to being a 1 on a lot of teams. You know what I mean? Or like definitely at least the second option on a really good team. Man, he just looks so good. And it's good to see what he beats up on the bad teams pretty well, which obviously, but that's still, I mean, he's just, he's another level than most players.
He was very close to the infamous point line of like unbelievable game of same number of minutes and points, right? Where like every minute you're in the game, you score a point, which is crazy. He had 27 minutes and 44 seconds of time. He only missed 2 shots. He took 14. Like they had no answer for him. He was making his threes. The shot that he had going, which is something that I think every player when they get to Brogdon is not elite. I have to preface this, but every player when they take a big offensive step up, usually they get They get better at their floater, and his floater was really working against the Cavs. And I actually asked him about the floater after the game, and he said, yeah, not only, was it working for me today, but I worked on it a little bit this offseason too, right? So if that's a new shot for him, because he's had trouble his whole career where he can like get a half step on his defender, but sometimes not quite the full step, and he blows some weird layups. Like if he can just chuck it up and in when he gets that half step, I think that would add an element to his game that makes games like this not common. If they were common, he'd be like one of the best 15 players in the NBA, but more frequent, maybe one in every like 10 instead of every one in every 15 or something like that. So it was a very impressive game.
I think my biggest concern from coming into the year was he had such a good year last year that I worried the Pacers basically blew one of his prime years, right? And they did essentially. But like I was worried he wasn't going to have the same prime. And I think though he does look like he is maybe even slightly building on last year, where I think like I thought at some point he kind of hit the top of his career because he's like 30 years old almost, or getting right. Isn't he 29? He's almost
28,
to that point.
I believe.
Oh, he is. So I'm maybe off here, but he's getting to that point where like he's going to reach his peak in the next year or two.
Yep.
And especially with the injury history, I was like kind of concerned with this with his peak last season, but I don't think he's quite there yet. I think his offensive output might not be the same level, just like because he was kind of took a lot of shots last year and there's more offensive weapons now. But I do think I forgot just like how I didn't forget, but like it's nice to be reminded of, oh yeah, this guy's like at times can be close to the elite level offensive player, like when he's at his very best. You just can't do it all the time.
Frequent listeners of the show know that I have often called him the best player on this team when healthy, but
I think I agree with you. I mean, it's close to him.
Not often the case.
Yeah, true. Yeah. That's also true.
Not often the case. So I didn't even notice this until we heard about it after the game, but there's another rotational thing, but also like a good Pacers thing to bring up. Did you notice in this game, Adam, that Brogdon and Sabonis' minutes were dead tied? Like locked. Whenever one came out, the other came out. Whenever one came in, the other came in. Did you even notice during the game?
I probably didn't. I mean, I'm not gonna these preseason games. I'm not like locked in on the starters all the time. But now that right. I don't look at the minutes, you're correct. I'm sure.
Carlisle tipped us that after the game that I don't know. I think it was intentional that he was trying to have them always on the court together. Pacers dominated those minutes, outscored the Cavs by 17 points in under 28 minutes. So looks like he's focusing on developing that partnership a little bit, which is good. They're the best
two best players on the team, two best offensive weapons. I mean, they blend together really well. I mean, it's kind of a light version of Vic and Sabonis from 17-18. I mean, actually, Sabonis is better than he was then.
Sabonis was not. Yeah, he wasn't even that great then.
Yeah, but Vic was so good that it's like that pairing was like another level. I still think just because Vic was like a top 15 player that year, but it's sort of that kind of version where like, oh yeah, both these guys could just like constantly just play off each other, and it's a good thing when they like probably will start double teaming Brogdon at times if that happens to kind of that's the bailout now with Sabonis all the time.
Right. So yeah, that's something to monitor. If they're always tied together, that's good. I mean, they play well together. Sabonis had a double-double. Brogdon had 27 points. Great. Maybe that's something they pursue more, and then Turner becomes the big with the bench. We saw last year we did several podcasts just talking about Turner with the bench lineup. So maybe that can be good again, especially on the defensive end. Something else in the Cavs game I have in my notes. It's preseason. This stuff is clunky. I want to read into it, though, because it's kind of been both preseason games, but the shot selection is just strange from some guys. Like, I get that they're all about open threes and spread and interchangeability, and you can do this from starting from here, and this guy can be in the corner or this guy, whatever. TJ McConnell should not be shooting the second most threes on your team. Goga should not be leading your team in three-point attempts. They're not really shooting as much at the basket with guys who are good at shooting at the basket as much. Like, it's fine. Like, Torrey Craig is dribbling all the time. And, like, it's going fine, but I did not expect Torrey Craig to dribble like ever. Isaiah Jackson took 2 corner threes. Like, Brad Wanamaker is fine, I guess. Like, there's just a lot of stuff that it's preseason, and I don't want to be like, what are they doing? What are they thinking? When they have a real rotation, this stuff will be ironed out. But I'm kind of thinking a couple times every game, like, why is that guy creating that shot for this guy and this? It's just kind of weird. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, so they've taken a combined or an average of like 42 threes per game in the preseason games, both of them. I think 44 in the first and 39 in the second, which I think gets you to
the volume itself isn't necessarily.
Well, I don't know. It's still, I mean, how much did they take last year? I'm now forgetting what the actual number was last year.
Like 35, I think.
Right. I mean, and so like, and under McMillan, it was more like 32?
Oh no, it was in like 20. He was like 20.
It was in the 20s. Okay, I knew it was like bottom of the league and wasn't that bad.
I remember that one.
I think it's still this adjustment of like the team is just like going to be much more focused on the 3-point shot. It's like this. I know Bjorken was like there was kind of that shift, but it didn't quite take hold. But I think it's starting to finally take hold. It takes a while, anyways, to kind of beat guys out of the idea of like, oh, take the open 2 because that's just like what McMillan's style. And you play that way for 3 years, it's like locked in your brains. So I mean, I agree on that. The thing about preseason too is that like guys just take shots because they can, right? I mean, like, there isn't like a lot of like there isn't much thought to it or like try to find the efficient shot. It's more like I have the ball, I have to shoot now because I need to impress the moment kind of thing.
Yeah,
so like
that's also true.
That's why the volume more comes to me. I'm like, oh, that's a lot of threes to take. And if they take 40 a game, that's going to be a lot. And well, I don't know how efficient they'll be now.
All right, I've got the numbers for you. You ready?
Okay.
The final McMillan season, 28 threes per game. I was exactly right.
That's so small.
Way too low, first of all. But
they shot really well, though.
They rehash 2019 Locked On Pacers topic. Last year with Bjorkgren, it was 34 on the dot per game.
Okay.
I have another key number for you here. Guess how many the Mavericks took per game last season?
Like 42.
38.1, sixth in the league. So 39 against the Cavs. Maybe that's about where the Pacers end up.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the Mavs have Luka, though, who's a high volume 3-point
great creator from 3. So here's the thing. I said this after the Knicks game, too. We talked about Duarte already, who took a few that you were like, McConnell in general shooting 4, you're like, maybe not. But in general, they were all open, and you're like, okay, that's fine. It's an open 3. Like, shoot that. Yeah, but
I think in a Ravens game,
how it's created,
there's a reason they'll be open. The Ravens game is a reason McConnell was
reason they're open. Yep. You're right about that. You know how you make it so there's a reason they're not open is you make them when you are open.
Well, I mean, I assume we're going to see Sabonis shoot more threes this year. I just think that's probably the progression. Like maybe 3 a game. I think he was like 2.5 last year. McConnell will probably take 1 a game, although I don't know if he keeps missing them. I think at some point they have to tell him just to stop. But like there's some instances you want these guys to take the threes because it's kind of like part of developing, right? If Sabonis doesn't take 3 a game now, then he can't make, 37% next season on 3 attempts, right? If he only, he's got to kind of work through it. And McConnell's the same way, right? You now have a long-term deal with McConnell. And if you want McConnell to be a like serviceable 3-point shooter in 2 seasons, he's got to take 1 per game at least going forward. So like there is some of that like chicken and the egg thing, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't have much else in terms of real-ish Pacers basketball. I was at FanJam, first time in Cambridge Fieldhouse. First of all, great.
Wait, hold on, calm down. It is not a new building; it is the same building. It's always been.
It's very much changed. Very much changed.
Did they do finally the remodeling that they've been trying to do forever?
The club level down is a lot of remodeling. So get out of here with your not a new.
Okay, I haven't been to a game in 2 years because I didn't go last year because of the COVID, and obviously, they should have been yet.
I reject your premise that it is not.
Well, I'll go to a game when I come home, and I'll see what it's like, and I'll let you know what's actually different. I mean, they've had the same building for 20 years now, right? They moved in 2001, I think.
Great, comfy seats. Club level looks different. No one really cares about the Fieldhouse stuff. Just stuff that's fun. FanJam was very fun. O'Shea Brissett hit a ton of threes and led his white squad to a triumphant comeback over the blue team. Ronald Nored's squad beat Mike Weiner's squad. The dancing was super fun. Chris Duarte dressed as, I think he was Barnacle Boy, and Isaiah Jackson was Mermaid Man from SpongeBob. Nice. They sang Cardi B's I Like It. It was very funny. They did a great job. DeJohn Giroux stole the show. He can really dance and sing. It was just a blast. FanJam was one of the most fun events of the year.
Yeah, I went to FanJam a couple years in a row. I think when I towards the end of high school, it was always a fun time. I think I went one of the years. I think it was one of Turner's rookie year. I went. He was kind of funny during it.
Turner mentioned that he's in charge of the costumes because he's been around for the longest, so he took it over from PG. So Miles is always the guy buying the costumes and stuff. I think that's perfect. Perfect role for him.
He makes plenty of money. He's fine.
Yeah, I'm sure the $100 Stranger Things costumes really put a hole in Miles.
Yeah, I know, in his $18 million contract.
Yeah. So FanJam's just fun. I hope some of you got to go. It's a great time. I don't think I have anything else today in terms of Pacers notes. Tomorrow, there's this guy on the Sixers who has yet to report to camp that has been linked to the Pacers several times, assuming there's no Pacers notes on Monday. I think it's finally time we talk about that topic. So we will get into a little more of the recent.
Who could it be? I'm wondering. I'm curious. You have me.
Yeah. I forget his name. Sen
Bimmons, right?
Sen Bimmons. Yeah, no, that's the guy who founded The Ringer, right? No, I'm just kidding. That's a very niche sports media joke. But yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit. I was going to do it last week, but then I forget what topic made us pivot. Oh, yeah, the Sumner trade and the Wanamaker signing made us pivot there. So we'll get to that. And the NBA GM survey came out last week. A lot of love for the Pacers, actually, this year, talking about those topics and how we feel about those things. It's kind of our last filler day for a while. The regular season starts next week. There's games all the time to talk about and cover and see how the team is doing. So got to cover these final offseason topics before we can't anymore. So that's tomorrow's show, unless something happens.
Well, knowing our luck, something will happen. Unfortunately,
something has always happened.
Always happened.
We're always like, oh man, this week's gonna be tough. But then like, oh, Edwin Sumner tore his Achilles. Oh, TJ Warren setback. Something always happens. Ideally, knock on wood, nothing will happen this time. So that's tomorrow's show. It'll be super fun. Hope you guys can look forward to that. Thank you guys so much for listening and making us your first listen of your podcast of the day. And we will see you